Imagine if rejection wasn't a dead end but a signal flare, illuminating what you've overlooked within yourself and what you're truly meant to become. Think back to the last time you felt unwanted. Maybe it was a text left unread, an interview that never led anywhere, or a friendship that faded without closure. Most of us recoil from rejection. We armor up, dull our dreams, or tell ourselves we never wanted it anyway. But what if we've misunderstood the message rejection is trying to send? What if rejection isn't a verdict, but a threshold? A summons to realign, to recalibrate, to rediscover the part of ourselves that we've been quietly exiling. Carl Jung devoted much of his life's work to what he called the shadow, the parts of our psyche we disown, suppress, or label as unacceptable. This isn't just about anger or shame. It includes desire, ambition, neediness, anything that doesn't fit the mask we wear for approval. Jung believed that what we refuse to face within ourselves doesn't disappear. It becomes projected. We see it in others, judge it, or try to control it from the outside. But the real transformation begins when we stop running and start integrating. So, what does this have to do with rejection? When someone turns away from us, the pain often feels disproportionate. A passing comment can ignite a storm. That storm isn't just about the moment, it's an echo. It reveals a fracture within, a place where we've already rejected a part of ourselves. This is where inverse psychology enters the picture. Traditionally, it's a technique, say the opposite of what you want, and the other person resists the command and does what you really intended. But inwardly, it reveals something deeper. We often resist what we most need. We downplay what we desire most. And when something is withheld, its value multiplies in our minds. Now, imagine combining this with Jung's shadow. What if the things we chase after most obsessively are the very things we've denied ourselves permission to want? And what if the sting of rejection doesn't just come from being denied, but from realizing we've long denied ourselves? Modern neuroscience backs this up. The brain registers rejection as physical pain. But Jung would say there's another layer. Rejection awakens the unconscious. It stirs the archetypes within us, the orphan, the seeker, the outsider, the lover. These aren't fictional characters. They're psychic blueprints, ancient scripts that live within each of us. When we are rejected, it isn't just a person walking away. It's the orphan rising, asking to be held. It's the seeker rising, demanding a new path. It's the lover rising, craving to be seen not for the mask, but for the truth underneath. This is the alchemy. If you can pause in that moment of rejection and ask, what does this awaken in me? You begin to transform. You begin to observe, not just react. And in that observation, you reclaim your agency. Let's take an example. Romantic rejection. It's tempting to believe you're grieving a person, but often you're grieving a projected self, a future you envisioned through their gaze. When they leave, that mirror vanishes, and you're left not just missing them, but wondering who you are without that reflection. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That darkness isn't evil, it's forgotten. It's the hunger we learned to hide, the wildness we traded for acceptance, the needs we buried under self-sufficiency. So, pause and ask, what have I been rejecting in myself? Have I chased people who affirmed the belief that I'm not enough? Have I pursued goals that keep me in a loop of proving, not creating? What would it mean to want things not out of deficiency, but from a place of fullness? These are the hard questions, but there are also the liberating ones. Because when you stop chasing approval, you start drawing energy inward. You become magnetic, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Now, let's talk about unconscious patterns. Sometimes we don't just suffer rejection, we repeat it over and over. We fall for people who don't choose us. We sabotage opportunities. We stay silent when we should speak. This is what Freud called repetition compulsion, and Jung took it further. We repeat what we haven't resolved. The psyche doesn't loop because it hates us. It loops because it's trying to bring the wound into consciousness. So, if rejection keeps visiting your life, it's not random. It's a messenger. The key question is, what script am I following? Whose story am I reenacting? Maybe your self-worth was tethered to performance. Maybe love always felt conditional. Maybe silence was safer than being misunderstood. But here's the turning point. Once you're aware of the pattern, you're no longer bound by it. This is where inverse psychology becomes personal. Think about it. We often try to become who others want us to be. We shrink, mold, overextend. But this adaptation, though clever, often leads to rejection. Why? Because it creates dissonance. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with presence, with congruence. So, when you stop contorting to be liked and instead choose to be seen, rejection may still happen, but it no longer defines you. It becomes feedback, not failure. And ironically, this grounded self-acceptance is what draws others in. Not because you're trying to attract them, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself. This is not a trick. This is power. Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, beyond the roles, masks, and inherited scripts. And rejection? It's often the catalyst. Let's pivot now. We often talk about the pain of being rejected, but what about the fear of rejecting others? We stay in relationships too long. We avoid difficult truths. We say yes when our gut screams no. Why? Because we fear being disliked. We fear conflict. We fear becoming the one who wounds. But suppressing your truth to protect others from discomfort is still self-abandonment. And that too is a form of rejection, of your own soul. You have the right to choose, to walk away, to uphold your boundaries, not cruelly, but clearly. Because when your no is honest, your yes becomes sacred. Now imagine this. What if every rejection, whether given or received, was a rite of passage? What if it marked the end of falsehood and the beginning of truth? What if it cracked open the shell that kept your deeper self hidden? You are not here to fit into every space. You are here to find your right ones, the ones that echo your values, the ones that honor your presence. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Rejection, then, is not the enemy, it is the edge, the place where the false self begins to fall away. So ask yourself, where have I been negotiating my worth? Where have I silenced my truth? Where have I confused attention with affection? And what would it look like to live from a place so aligned, so self-honest, that rejection doesn't break you, it builds you? Let this be the reframe. Rejection isn't a curse, it's a clearing. It's not a wall, it's a door. And when you walk through it, not with bitterness, but with awareness, you emerge not smaller, but more whole. You stop chasing desire, you become it. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how aligning with your inner truth reshapes not just your mindset, but the reality you attract. How the outer world begins to shift in synchrony with your inner coherence. But for now, breathe, reflect, and remember. The part of you that hurts is the part of you ready to heal. And that healing begins when you stop fearing rejection and start listening to what it's been trying to teach you all along.